Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll get going here. My name is April Levitt. I think I know a lot of you, but not everyone. And I'm one of the partners and a coach here at the Personal Coach. And I'm excited to have Allyson Lee today, one of our coaches, give a presentation on the powerful exit. And so before we do, I'll just give a little bit of an update for the on the Personal Coach. For those of you that don't know us, our team has been growing, and you'll see here it's not just Allyson and I. And Michael mentioned Julie is one of the other partners. We do have a powerful team of coaches working with advisors across Canada, and we're really excited to be putting this workshop on today, this presentation. And Allyson Lee is one of our coaches, and she actually has a unique specialty as a certified neurotransformational coach. And so that means Allyson focuses on mindset and the things that can sometimes be limiting beliefs or get in the way. And that comes at all stages of business, whether you're in that growth mode or, as our topic is today, when you're thinking about how do I plan for the best exit around my business. So we're excited to have Allyson today talking about this topic. She did some research over the last, I guess, year and a half, Allyson, with advisors
Beginning of last year, first half of last year.
talking about their experiences around exit and succession planning. So today we're going to share some of that and looking a little bit more at the emotional side of the exit of your business or succession planning. And as many of you know, we have a technical expert on our team, Afsar Shah, who I believe is also going to be joining us sometime today. And Afsar is a lawyer by trade, and he is our specialist on mergers and acquisitions on our team and looks after the more technical side of the whole equation. And now Allyson's done the complementary work on the emotional and mindset piece. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So Allyson, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So, succession and exit planning. What comes to mind when I say those words? What thoughts or what feelings? Or how about the word retirement? And I know some of you are going to want to press leave meeting and get the heck out because they're pretty scary words. But you're here with me today, and I like to think you're here because you're curious about a new perspective on those things. And I have been coaching financial advisors for about 20 years. And what I found, and those of you who know me do know that mindset is my passion. And what I found is that the biggest indicator of growth, success, fulfillment in your business is really around mindset. And in learning about that mindset for growth, I started to think, well, if mindset is so important for building your business, building your ideal business, and having that confidence to really have the freedom and the success in your work, then isn't it just as important, just as critical when talking about exiting your business? So we all know, I'm going to share my screen here. We all know that succession and exit planning they are hot topics. They are hot topics because we have an aging demographic. They're hot topics because of the growing population, right? The aging population of advisors in Canada and the US. Actually, advisors are nearing mid 50s, mid 50s. And if the advisors are nearing mid 50s and about almost 40% of those advisors are going to be retiring in the next 10 years, it's becoming more and more of an urgent topic to discuss. In Canada, actually, about 50% of the assets under management in Canada are held by advisors over the age of 55. And then you put that with the fact that fewer young people are getting into the business, right? Huge decline in advisors under the age of 25. And we know it's a hard business, right? 71 to 75% of them, of new advisors, exit within the first 5 years because it's not easy. And of course, this whole thing around exit planning puts firms at risk. There's risk of them losing assets. And one study I saw said 32% of clients will switch advisors or firms if their primary advisor leaves and they haven't had adequate time to be introduced to and get to know a new advisor. Exit planning, the whole urgency around it is not going away. And this is what I thought. In coaching, as I said, the mindset is so important. And also, we have a foundational belief in coaching that the being drives the doing. Who you are being as a person, who you are being, meaning, yes, your mindset, your perspectives, your attitudes, who you are being dictates what you do and how you do it. The actions you are taking and the actions you are not taking. So this is why I focus on mindset so much, is really because what I feel is if I can help someone see things differently, when you see things differently, you open up more to ideas of what's possible. And that helps you feel more motivated to take real action in achieving what you want to achieve. So I got really curious about the being part of exit planning. And as April said, I did a study last year. And in this study, what I did is I had surveys for both advisors who were pre-exit, advisors who were post-exit. And they were from Canada, the US, all different backgrounds, all different age ranges. I had 150 surveys submitted and I did 50 one-on-one interviews. And I see some of you on the call today who I interviewed, and thank you so much. Thank you so much for generously donating your time for that, because I learned a lot. I found it really fascinating. And in these interviews, I was also able to really understand the emotional path that both pre-advisors and post-advisors were on, and what made the exit for them a positive experience or a really stressful experience. So my goal here on this session today is to really help you, if you need it, to shift your mindset, to really look at your perspective on your exit and shift it if you need to. Now, I want to be very, very clear. I am not focusing on how to exit. I'm not giving you a step-by-step on how to exit. We have other resources out there. Your firm will have resources. April talked about we have experts at the personal coach. This is not a how-to. This is what's going on inside your mind and in your heart, so you can shift and take action on your exit to make it a more positive experience. Now, in this study, there were some very common themes around the interviews and what I found out. And after this session, you're going to get a chance to download a document of the summary of findings. And you might find it a little bit of a long read, but I think you'll find it interesting, because on that summary of findings as well, there are some direct advice from advisors who had a successful exit and things that they wanted you to know. So I see exit planning as like a roller coaster, right? You got these ups, you got these downs, you don't know what's around the corner, what's down at the bottom of that hill. And, we're all on this roller coaster of life and heading towards retirement or an exit, whether you're a financial advisor or in another profession, right? We all are going to retire someday. Well, if we're, lucky enough to get to that age. And what I found that the advisors pre-exit that I was interviewing, we had different types. Some were excited about the exit, right? Excited Elaine here. She's like moving down that track, diving into what's next, letting go, excited about her next phase of life. Other advisors were like fearful Fred. Fearful Fred is holding on with a death grip to his business, right? Not letting go and terrified of what was next. And terrified is a word that I heard more than once. I also had a few conversations with this guy in the back. I'm going to call him Dan in denial. Poor Dan, he doesn't even know he's on a roller coaster, but he is heading towards an exit whether he wants to or not. So what was the difference with these advisors? What had some advisors be in fear? Some advisors be excited? Many were a mix of both. Or what had advisors like totally in denial and pushing that exit further and further out, the perpetual 5 years? We've all heard of that. Well, the biggest difference was really their emotional mindset, their perspective around the exit. And, you've worked hard. You've worked hard to get to where you are. And an ineffective or overly delayed exit affects your family, your team, your clients, your well being, and might even affect your bottom line. And it just really doesn't do justice to all that work, all those blood, sweat, and tears that you have put in to getting to where you are today. Mindset is important from inception of your business to exit of your business. So in all of this, looking at the conversations and everything, it became clear that there were three main limiting mindsets that hinder the exit process, that really make it more stressful and not an easeful experience. And I'm going to go through those mindsets. And under each of those mindsets, there's always a fear. And fear I call the self-saboteur. And this is why the fear comes up because our brains, your beautiful 3-pound brain, it's one of its main goals is to keep you safe. And keeping you safe usually means keeping you in your comfort zone, right? So it's like, don't rock the boat, right? Don't try anything new. Don't do it. Your brain's going to fight you all the way. And then what happens is it triggers fear. And fear causes a lot of self-doubt and really hinders your ability to look at something clearly, assess it clearly, and evaluate what the next best steps are for you. So, as we're going through these mindsets, really notice, okay, am I in this mindset or another one, maybe a mix of them, maybe none of them? And also, what are the underlying fears for you in these mindsets? Okay. The first one, the I'm not done mindset. Now, the financial advisors who are in the I'm not done, they really know they should start planning, but they just don't feel they're ready. They're not done, right? It's not time yet. And what I found that this was really based on was not more financial success in this business, but potential. They didn't want to leave potential on the table. They were still growing their business and they want to squeeze every last drop out, right? That when they're finished, that feels very, very far away. They just felt that there was more to achieve and they hadn't reached their peak. Now, financial services, yeah, we all know it can be a very competitive industry. And advisors that I talked to who are nearing exit were saying, did I reach my peak? Did I truly get the level of success that I wanted? And the thing is that finish line that they're thinking of getting to is a moving target and it keeps moving further and further away. And when advisors feel like they're finished, they're at their peak. Actually, I have to say, advisors are notorious for not celebrating where they're at, right? Celebrating their successes. And I know there are people on this call because I've coached with people on this call. And it's saying, okay, I had this goal and I reached it. And instead of celebrating, what do they do? Wow, it was too low. I mean, it was too easy, right? Don't celebrate their successes. And the I'm not done, right? They're grateful for what they've done, but the feeling that there is more, right, is just so strong. And the truth is that finish line is always a moving target and it moves further and further away, and so does your exit planning. Another thing about the I'm not done advisor is that they feel that if they start planning their exit, it means they have to exit. And this isn't true, right? Starting to plan for your exit really means you're going to be at a state of readiness, right? And the best thing is to be at that state of readiness when you are in a place of choice. A choice you can choose to stay, you can choose to fully go, or you can choose to stay but in a different capacity. Being at that place of choice is really the most important. The big fears of the I'm not done mindset: regret, leaving the race before they reached the finish line, right? The feeling that could have achieved more. And another one, total FOMO, right? If they leave and the business keeps growing, instead of that being a good thing, it's like they've missed out on those business opportunities, right? So it's regret and fear of missing out. And the advisors that I interviewed who had exited, they all exited after the age of 65. which I think is a little later than a lot of professions. Advisors, what I found in my reading, really seem to exit at a later stage of life. But the truth is, you can't wait until you feel fully like it's time to exit, like you're fully done. Because by then, it's probably past time to have, that's sufficient time for planning and for really, looking at all your options and doing your due diligence and implementing your exit. And the advisors who had exited that I interviewed, none of them felt 100% ready, right? A lot of them were mostly ready. But the goal here is not to be 100%, right? But to still do the planning anyway. The next mindset I found was the mini me mindset. In the mini me mindset, advisors had the expectation that the only person who could take over their business and look after their clients the way they want them to look after them was a mini me, was someone exactly like themselves. And advise, I get it, right? Advisors, your clients, they made you, they build help you build your successful business, right? I had advisors even say, my clients are my babies, right? Who will love them as much as I love them? Who will look after my clients to the level that I have looked after them? And the truth is, no one. No one will. It's unrealistic. It's unrealistic to think that way, that someone who hasn't had all of that history, all of that face time is going to love your clients as much as you do. They might never love your clients as much as you do. The mini me mindset advisor not only finds it hard to think about their exit, but they feel that planning it is pretty impossible and they don't fully commit to finding a successor. When a mini me is in their business every day, they're probably not delegating enough. They're in the weeds too much, not delegating to tasks to team members who really should be doing some of that work. Now, the mini me mindset also shows up very strongly with advisors who have children. And listen, that would be a wonderful thing. Having a child come into the business, be your successor, gosh, that's wonderful. And I've seen it work. But sometimes advisors have very unrealistic expectations around this. Sometimes their child is still in school and there's just not the runway space for that child to learn about the business, get enough experience, education in time to take over. Or sometimes I've seen advisors try to fit a square peg into a round hole. That child is just not a fit for the industry. And to be honest, if that person wasn't their child, they wouldn't even be thinking of them to join their team. And it's really tough because it would be a wonderful thing, but it's not going to work. And being successful advisors, that to be successful in the industry, you have to really want to be in the industry. It can't just be a convenient career path for someone to come on and join you. Now, the big fears of the mini me: loss of control, having to let go. And this was a big one. Clients will be mad at me. They're going to be mad at me for leaving. That showed up pretty strongly as well. And the thing with the mini me is that if they find a mini me, it feels a little easier to let go because that person is exactly like them, right? So that's with the mini me. Okay. The next one that I found was the Forever Financial Advisor. And the Forever FA, exiting is not even on their radar screen. They're not even thinking about retiring because really being a financial advisor is who they are. Deep down, they identify as a financial advisor and really not much else. In the business, they have often trouble taking vacation. There's on email. Their work fills most of their time and their energy. They don't have a lot of balance or outside hobbies and really think, well, who am I if I'm not a financial advisor? They're also deeply concerned about what they would do if they didn't have an office to go to, if they didn't have that structure, of being a financial advisor. And one interview I had, this was great. The advisor said, you can only play so much golf. I'm afraid every day would be Groundhog Day and I'd be drinking before noon. So I thought that one was pretty funny. If you ask a Forever FA advisor when they're retiring, they say never. I'm going out in a box. And I heard that more than once as well, right? Big fears of the Forever FA: loss of validation, loss of identity, and total fear of the unknown. So those are the three mindsets that really showed up very, very clearly. And I'm curious for everyone on this call, what mindsets might you be in? Now, this is an anonymous survey, and you might be in one of them, choose all that apply, or maybe none of them, right? You might be in two of them, just choose all that apply, and okay.
Okay, so we have 60% I'm not done,
Mm,
11% mini me,
okay.
23% the forever FA, and 28% none of the above.
Okay, awesome. And you know what? That's exactly what I usually see is that most people are in the I'm not done. And I know some of you thinking, but I'm really not done, right? We get it. That's just part of it. Excellent. Okay. Now, why I'm really pushing this today, and I might be triggering some of you, but why I'm pushing this is that there's a very negative impact of delaying your exit planning. First of all, lose potential clients due to age, right? If you have a prospect coming to see you and, you're a little older than them, they're not going to see you as someone who is able to, work with them into their old age. Your current clients, I better starting to ask if you're getting close to that age, they're saying, are you retiring? When are you retiring? And what happens is those clients stop referring you because they're already wondering how long you're going to be there. Of course, there's loss of time to prepare, and firms are at risk of losing some assets or losing clients. And, because they haven't been, their advisor leaves and they haven't been properly introduced to a new one. So, April, I know you have some stories here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and would love to hear some stories about what you've seen around exit planning.
Yeah, I'll just share a couple things. It's quite interesting because we do work with advisors all the time on these aspects of their succession planning, and it is very hard to find the right associate advisors, finding the right person. All of those things are a really big challenge. And so I have seen people think they have a perfect plan in place, and something comes out of the blue that ends up turning that plan upside down. So I think that also comes into it too. But certainly I have seen all of these mindsets. And it actually also reminds me of when I was an advisor, my clients were physicians. So I worked with MD Financial for a long time, and they also had a hard time retiring. Number one, because they're highly in demand. There's shortage of physicians, similar to financial advisors. They can work a long time. And again, a lot of times their whole identity and ego was wrapped up in them being a physician. And so we did a really great program that was designed by a guy named Dr. Alan Rodberg. His books, I think, now are out of print, but they're really good read if you can find one in a secondhand or online somewhere. But he had one book for physicians called Life After Medicine, and one just in general called Retire with a Dash, like you're retiring your car. But one of the best things that he talked about for all of was all of these mindsets, but looking at really, if you are having any of those fears, what might you also replace from your work that you might have when you retire? So is it challenge? Is it growth, as you mentioned, Allyson? Is it learning? Is it the relationships? What are those things that you're getting out of work, and start building those into your life before you retire? And that's where I see the best succession plans take place, is when you've kind of had that phased in or semi-retirement before, where actually you can still have some of your best growth years if you get some of those other things that are draining you off your plate before you fully retire. And so I think a lot of times that ends up happening and is the best result for looking after almost all of those fears, Allyson. So yeah, that's what I would say there. And then I
Mhm.
think sometimes people just also get to a point where you might need a break. And so does it have to be all or nothing? So you can sell and stay, as Allyson mentioned. We're starting to see that more and more. I had an advisor last year she's primarily insurance specialist. She took a 4 month sabbatical from from her role, and she went on a ceramics course in Italy, and she did a trip with her kids to Africa, and she just kind of carved out this time where everyone knew she was going to be away, and did some of these things before retiring and just coming back really, really refreshed. So it's not just a black and white scenario. There's lots of creative things that we can do here. And there's lots of really great resources around this in addition to the personal coach. So um, we've had as a guest Susan Latramoy from Next Chapter Lifestyle Advisors. They have some really great resources, both for advisors retiring and for your clients to help with that succession planning as well. So
Yeah.
that's all I would like to say there,
Yeah.
Allyson.
Thanks, April.
Thanks.
I did hear there was an advisor I interviewed and they had a successor and were, putting time into it and then it just didn't work out. And, at least that's why it's important to have that runway, do it before, like I said, do it before you feel ready.
Yeah, and
So,
Tammy has a good comment here about sometimes you don't have a choice and your health dictates. And I had that actually with my first business partner when I was an advisor in Vancouver, and she had a succession plan with a very loose arrangement with two younger guys in her office, starting at age 50, and she thought they were probably 15 years out from needing a succession plan, and they just started off with they would cover her when she was on holidays. So that's really how it started. And then suddenly, unfortunately, she had a stroke and became lost her vision and was able, it couldn't work overnight. Like it just happened that fast. But even though they didn't have a formal plan in place, she had a loose alliance with these guys that ended up being her succession plan. So just, even having those backup plans early on is a best practice.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay. Thank you, April. Okay. So let's explore a more empowering mindset for your exit. And the way that I see it is that there are three parts in your financial advising career. There are really three parts to a financial advisory business. First one is you, the advisor. The second is your clients. And the third is your business structure, meaning your team, your partners, your processes, your systems, all of what you're doing to develop the business. That's the third. So when you think about your business as you, clients, and the business structure, I want you to take a minute and think how much focus, time, and energy, just a gut feeling, do you feel you put on each one out of 100? How much percentage of focus, time, and energy on you? How much on your clients? And how much on the business as a whole? And what I'd love you to do is put in chat which one gets the highest percentage for you. And let me see. So put in chat. I just have to be able to see. April, I can't see my chat. If you could see if there's any coming up. Oh, there's my chat. I see it.
I think it's starting to be the majority clients. Yeah, it's all clients.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
been typically my experience as well. Although I always like to say, I don't know that we get at the personal coach, we get a bit of a biased view of advisors because typically the types of advisors that want to work for a coach are the best advisors. They're
Yeah,
already a good advisor and they want to be better. So I don't know that we always have the
have that.
most
Right.
unbiased audience. So
I hear you. I hear you. So clients is definitely the biggest one that I see. And I've seen this when advisors are building their business, when they put the most emphasis on clients, how it shows up when you're building your business is advisors get overwhelmed, right? They can't say no to prospects, can't say no to clients. This means it shows up in their business that they're taking on too many non-ideal clients. They find it really hard to release clients, and they spend a lot of time on non-profitable clients, right? You're giving your bronze level people the same amount of service as your platinum level people. So advisors get burnt out, right? But you're carrying, you're really the big focus is the client. Now, when the big focus is the client, the business itself gets less focus, meaning there's really not much time for business development and there's a lack of refined systems, repeatable, scalable processes. Maybe you don't have enough team members on your team. And also, you are less of a priority. That means there's a lack of personal time with family, exploring those interests, getting hobbies, really having an identity outside of the business. And your physical health and well-being can decline. So this is really, as a coach who helps advisors build their ideal business, when I see way too much of a focus on clients, which I know sounds like the right focus to have, right? It sounds like, but isn't that what we're supposed to do? But actually, no, it's not the most ideal. And then when you're exiting, when there's far too much focus on the clients, Advisors are really stuck because you're too focused on the impact. Remember, one of the mindsets was my clients are going to be mad at me, or who's going to love them as much as I love them. Your business is not packaged for sale, meaning that all your systems aren't in place. Maybe your team is not fully up to speed. You might not be really a compelling, a compelling business for a successor to come into your business to take over. And then, of course, the transition, if there's no focus, not as much focus on you, the transition is too overwhelming, right? You just can't picture what retirement would be like because you're far, too much focusing on all of the other aspects of the business. So the way that I see it is the ideal business is to be a balanced business owner, like an equilateral triangle. So an equilateral triangle is the same angles, the sides are the same length, right? If you give more to one, take away from another, that triangle is out of balance. And so the way that I see it is that, okay, I know this doesn't add up to 100%, right? You get it. But really, all of these things should get equal amount of your focus, time, and energy. Your clients, you, and the business. To really have that balanced business owner mindset, said these should all be in balance. So I want you to look back at those numbers that you gave to each of those and look at where are you out of balance, right? Look at your percentages. Where are you out? And let's learn from each other a little bit here. Put into chat one or two things that you could do to bring more balance, right? It might be, I've got too many clients. I've got to release some. Or it might be, it's really time to hire a new team member. Or maybe we have to look at our segmentation plan and really, start to be a little bit more intentional about the levels that we're giving. So let me see. Yes, expanding your team, hire, that's a really, really big one. And I know it's hard to reduce clients, but we've really seen that as something as well to do. And another thing, stop taking on clients who aren't ideal. That's the biggest thing because I have clients who are like, I know I have to release, I don't want to do it. And I said, the first step is stop taking them on that are not ideal for you, right? And at the personal coach, this is a big part of what we help advisors build, right? To build their ideal business and life now, to first of all enjoy their business and life now, and also have a better exit and build those systems. That means you will be more ready when your team doesn't solely rely on you. It makes the transition easier. Shift the role, some client servicing role to your teams, and that also really helps. Oops. Yeah, really helps your team grow, right? The most empowering and the most freeing thing that you can do is really to be in that place of choice, right? Is to really, and this really showed up strongly, very strongly in the interviews that I did. Because, let me see. In the interviews that I did, this was fun. So I identified two exit groups. The first that you had was what I would call the designed lifer. The designed lifer is still working, right? But living their best life now, right? They have the freedom to unplug. I've had advisors take 2-week vacation, not even check their email and come back to like no email in their inbox. They focus on a small number of clients. Then the team is involved in most of the day-to-day stuff. They have freedom over their schedule. There's no urgency to leave because they've reduced their role. And I have this one client, Steve, and when I talked to him, he's in his early 60s, and he said, I'm living my best life now. I have no plans to leave because if I wake up and he lives on the ocean. If I wake up and the waves are good, I'm going to go surfing and I'll get to the office around 10:30. And he says, I still bring in clients. The great thing about being a designed lifer is that you have the experience, you have the contacts that you can still be out there bringing in business, but then you're not servicing them. Your team is. It's not reliant on you. So Surfer Steve, as I call him, no plans to leave. And he recently said last year was the best year ever for his business, for bringing in new assets. So that's the designed lifer. The second was the designed exiter. And this type of advisor had fully exited their business. They were happily, the exit, the transition was easier than they thought it was going to be. It was a successful exit. They felt good. And they were at that place of choice, and they did decide eventually to fully leave. But the key is, for a year or two before, they were already a designed lifer, right? They were already living like Surfer Steve, and then leaving the business when they really wanted to. The balanced business really knows that succession and exit planning, right? It's not totally about exiting, right? It's about growing your business, growing your systems, growing your structure, your value, right? So it is more in a place to leave. And that's why I say exit planning should always, always be a part of your business plan, because building that ideal business is really the first step in balancing all of those three parts and structuring that business like you are always ready for an exit. And of course, really having that life, that identity outside of the business. Now, listen, if you're on this call and you're closer to an exit and you're thinking, uh-oh, I didn't leave myself enough time, it's not too late. Like, it's really not too late to make it a positive experience and start making changes now. Yes, get some expert help. Watch out for your mindset so you won't fall into those traps that we talked about, and really embrace that balanced business owner mindset, because you've really worked hard to get where you are, and we don't want your exit not to be um, you know um, the best exit that it can be. Another thing that I want to say is that the whole topic of exit planning, even though I know it's really hard, this is a time to actually celebrate. It's a time to celebrate all the lives that you have impacted, the business that you have grown. Exiting does not mean you're quitting. It doesn't mean that you're leaving, that it's not, it's a thing to be celebrated. And remember, I said advisors don't celebrate enough. And it really is about recognizing really all that you have done for all. I've heard stories over the many, many years of the impact of the advisors I've been coaching have had on their clients. Really, really impactful. And that's a time to celebrate that. And all that you have achieved, all how you've impacted your family, your team, your community, right? You get to choose. It is totally a time to celebrate all that you have achieved. So, my mission, I really feel this is so important with the aging demographics, with everything that's changing, right? This really does need to be addressed. And as you know, my passion is mindset. That's where I first start. What's going on in their brain? How are they feeling about this? It's an inside job. We shift on the inside, then that allows us to take more powerful action on the outside. So I'm really trying to spread the word here, right? Keynote speaking, breakouts, workshops, connect with me on LinkedIn. I love talking about this subject, and my passion really, as I said, is helping you see things differently, so it will open up possibilities and you can take really more powerful action. And I'm going to pass it back to April.
Thank you, Allyson. Yeah, that's some great insights. And as Allyson mentioned, you will be getting a copy of the report with the research that Allyson did and some of the direct quotes from advisors that Allyson interviewed, which is I found very interesting reading. So my goal after this workshop is to become also for myself more like Surfer Steve. So I don't live by the ocean, but I have
Yeah,
to.
we got to move somewhere warmer, April.
Yeah, I got it. Although I do have an equivalent. I've got someone who's a skier, Steve, who cancels his appointments in the winter to go skiing if it's a good snow day. So it can be done. I have seen it done. So thanks again to everyone joining. I will open it up. We do have couple more minutes. I'm just curious if anyone has any questions for Allyson or anything.
Not so much a question, but I
Yeah.
love what you covered, Allyson. I think it was fantastic. It's definitely, I'm not an advisor, I'm more of a coach and a consultant. Is definitely what I've seen out there as well. And that whole ability to craft the life that you want is really sometimes that they forget because they're so into it. And it can be whatever you want. No one's stopping because you have the financial means, you have a team typically, and once you just take some time to reflect on what that could be, and it's not a one-time event, but it's a process where, like Surfer Steve may have thought of something before he got to that surfer rhythm that he
Yeah.
got to beforehand, but that empowered to be able to create something, or that example that I think April, you talk about that person who took a break and
Yeah.
went to do the ceramics. It's really your limitation is your imagination.
Hmm.
And once you get the inside clear on what that looks like, and that could be for a year or two, and then it might change, then, what's the next and what's the next? Because inevitably, the exit does happen.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Whether you choose or you or you don't
Yeah.
choose.
Yeah.
And often my experience has been sometimes it's been triggered by illness
Yeah.
and they are less prepared. And I love the fact that you said it's not about once you start the process, it is a done deal that leaves you to walk out the door, but it's preparedness for the unknown stuff that might happen. And
Hmm.
if you truly love your clients, you will prepare because you love your clients and it's in their best interest.
That is
Thank you. That
so
was so great.
important. And Amelia, thank you, Amelia. And I think, first of all, advisors, have some compassion for yourself. This industry, you work so hard for when you're growing your business and even just starting out an advisor, you are all in focusing on this and building your business. And there's not a lot of time sometimes for other things. And so you've been working this way for a long time. Remember, your brain loves that. It's your default by being that advisor. And so it is extra hard, I think, to really shift, and build those outside things. Right. Thanks, Amelia.
Yeah, thanks. That's a great comment. And I think it's the same kind of things that you are helping your clients with as they are going through retirement as well. Like hopefully you're also talking about, they are also having these same kind of feelings, possibly especially if it's a business owner. When do I sell the business? How does that look and what does my life look like? So all of these things that you're going through, you can also be a model for your clients as well in terms of this. And I often will get advisors again some pushback on, oh, what if I don't want my clients to know I took a month off? Why not? You're modeling what could be a possibility of life, for them to aspire to as well, right? So,
And if you've got the right
and
team in
if you've got
place,
the team, yeah, then again, you're trying to, shift some of that responsibility and that trust in both you and your clients in your team to look after things. So, I also agree. It's all possible, and we've seen all kinds of different arrangements. So happy to chat more about that. So, as many of you know, we coach around these 15 different areas of your practice. And Allyson, I'll just get you to go one more slide. So, if you're curious about where you are at in your business, if you're not working with one of the coaches right now, please feel free as well to scan the QR code and take the velocity indicator to just see where your business measures up. There is a section on succession and contingency planning to see, again, what steps have you take, how good are you feeling about that area right now, as well as other aspects of your business that can, again, as Allyson mentioned, having these things in place can help you feel much more confident of a successful exit. So we'd encourage you to do that. If you'd like to reach out and connect with one of the coaches to talk more about your situation, our first step is just to have a complimentary consultation and learn more about your business and how we can help you. So we're always happy to do that. And if we're not the right person to help, we can certainly point you in the right direction. So thanks everyone for the participation and engagement today. I hope you got some value out of that. And again, some things to think about in terms of your own succession and exit planning. And thanks a lot, Allyson, for sharing your findings today.
Before we leave, can I just share
Oh,
a couple of quick thoughts?
yes, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
This
Stephen.
has been a very interesting seminar. I'm on the tail end in that I am retiring this year. It's been a 5-year process. I've done it in chunks, which helps all sides, clients included, get comfortable with the transition, allowed me to focus on that transition. But I wanted to say thank you to a number of people that I recognize on this session. Julie and Kim were there in 1995 when I started at Art Schooley's branch. I was a tough nut back then. I was not an easy guy to work with because I was just determined to do things my way, but they had the patience to point me in the right direction. Allie, of course, helped me grow the business substantially in the last 5 or 6 years, so I have to tip my hat to her. there are 2 or 3 individuals on this call who I reached out to and said, can you help me? Tell me more. So, very interesting call when I can see my start and finish all in the same session. So, thanks to all of you who might recognize the name, and especially to Allie. She's, as we lovingly call her, the Velvet Hammer. She makes sure that things go the right way. So, thanks again
Thank
to
you.
everyone.
Thanks
Great
for
to see you,
that, Stephen.
Steve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we appreciate that. And yeah, I said in the comments, but for those of you that know Art Schooley, our founder, he is the ultimate design lifer, and again, someone else that can be a great model for all of this as well. So yeah, thank you again, everyone.
Nice to see everyone. Thanks for coming.